Hey everybody, it's Marriage Moment. Welcome to our dining room table. We have been going through these two books for women only, for men only. These are old books, but they have been redone with some modern research. They are super helpful in helping to understand your spouse. If you're a man, you read the for men only. If you're a woman, you read the for woman only, but we are taking the time to do both of them and kind of break down some of the stuff we're learning as we read these together. Today, we are going through For Men Only. And I like this chapter for a couple reasons. I think the number one reason is, well, why don't you tell them what this chapter is, and then I'll tell them why I liked it, why I thought it's important.
Okay. So this chapter is trying to explain this whole cultural thing about men and women where it's just accepted in our culture that men believe that women are just impossible. Yes. We are unreasonable. We do unreasonable things. Sometimes we're kind of crazy. And the normal reaction for a man, because of knowing this, which is a myth, is to just throw up their hands and walk away and hope that things are going to get better.
That's the gist of the chapter. And the reason I like this chapter is because it does explain that whole idea as being a myth.
Yeah.
But most men would say, I will never understand my wife. She is completely illogical. She doesn't think like I think, which we just label that illogical just because you think differently than us. So I'll never understand her. She's illogical. She does unreasonable things. Why try? It's just one of those things in life that it's always going to be this way. It's always going to be, I will never understand why she does what she does. I cannot consistently predict the outcome of anything because I'll never understand my wife, so why bother trying? Yeah. And what I like about this chapter is that it says that's a stupid way, those are my words, it's a stupid way to approach your marriage. With this idea that you'll never understand your wife. There are some things about your wife that are a mystery because they're different, not because they're unreasonable, not because they're illogical, not because you can't ever understand them, but because they are different. And if you could just take the time to do something like read a book that has a crap ton of research done in it that could help you, you can understand.
Yeah.
You can understand why your wife responds to things in a way that you wouldn't, and that most of the time you don't understand, but you would have to take the time to, one, learn about your own spouse, your own wife. Take that time to study her and learn her and know her. And then two, just understand generally why things happen. If you ask the right questions, you get the right answers. And so when your wife is, in your eyes, being unreasonable or illogical or unexplainable, the worst thing you can do, apparently, is what we have been conditioned to do, and that is to say, well, hope that gets better.
And kind of walk away.
And never address it, never approach it, never even try.
Yeah.
But you never try because you're hiding behind that cultural myth that says you'll never understand, so why bother? And so this whole chapter and this video is trying to help you see, guys, that is just a dumb way to approach marriage. And all of us, every man I know, including myself, has at one time or another believed that and tried to make a relationship work like that, and you can't. It just doesn't work. So there's some better ways to deal with it. When your wife does act unreasonable, because she will, and when your wife is completely unpredictable, because she will be, and when she responds in a way that you feel like is just illogical, all those things are going to happen. And instead of just throwing up your hands and walking away and say, I'm just going to leave her alone until she figures that out, instead of doing that, there are some things you can do. So let's talk about those things.
Yes. So we want to start at a starting place.
Good place to start. Always start at the beginning.
And the two things that the authors say, is the place to start for a man who truly wants to try and be better at this is that good reasons exist for our actions.
Just stop there. Okay, because I think that's a good one.
Yeah.
when you don't understand what your wife is doing and what she's feeling, why she's acting the way she's acting, instead of assuming she's crazy, unreasonable, illogical, hormonal, just forget those excuses and say, there's probably a good reason
Yeah.
for this, whatever it is. There's probably a good reason. That's believing the best about your wife and saying she's not all those things. There's a good reason behind all that.
And this all comes from the research that they did. And by the way, I thought it was interesting. They mentioned that they did some research even with young girls,
Yeah.
young women.
Yeah, these characteristics are true just for females in general.
Right. That's very interesting. So the other thing is that where we want to start is to understand there are good reasons and that men can discover and act on these reasons, and that equals relationship improved.
And just the process of trying to understand, just the process of your words, discover and act on those reasons
Yeah.
is a huge, huge deal to your wife.
Very big.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what we're going to do for this chapter, there was a whole lot in this
It's a
chapter.
lot. Yeah.
And just to kind of keep it simple, we're going to show men how to break the code.
Breaking the code of your wife's unreasonable, illogical, hormonal, crazy behavior.
Yes. So number one, and I'm adding this in.
Okay.
Don't look at us like we're crazy.
That's a good one.
Please.
That's
Because
a
we're
good one.
not. And there are possible reasons. There are, I think they give 4 possible
Mm-hmm.
reasons for why we are seeming to be unreasonable or maybe a little crazy or impossible and hard to understand.
Yes.
Okay?
All of those things.
Yeah. So, possible reason 1 when we're breaking the code. It's something that the man has done even though he doesn't realize he did it.
Yes.
And he didn't mean to do it, usually.
Right.
That's possible reason 1.
So one of the reasons your wife could be acting what most men would describe as unreasonable, unpredictable, illogical, or crazy is probably I did something.
And you didn't realize that you did it.
I didn't mean to do it. I certainly didn't want to elicit that response in her. But maybe if I just learned to say, I wonder what I did,
Yeah,
without being a victim and without being all dramatic about it.
right. And instead of storming off or both of you getting silent, which is what happened, they gave a little story, and it's a really long story that gave an example. But basically, they were going to go on a date night, and they hadn't been together in a long time. And the husband made some decisions that changed the course of the night. And instead of pursuing an answer to why he had upset his wife and even asking, is anything wrong? Did I do something that has hurt you because I didn't mean to? And tell me what's happened so we can fix this. Instead of that, they both got silent. It ruined their evening. There was no sex that happened after the date. And he could have handled that so differently if he had known about this one little
Right.
thing.
I think the key there is just to ask the question,
Yeah.
have I done something to upset you? Have I done something wrong?
Yeah. That's not hard.
First possible reason, we did something
You did
dumb.
something. Okay, so possible reason 2.
I would just like to add that of the 4 reasons, that might be like 90% of why y'all respond the way we don't understand.
Yeah, maybe. And it's because we're so different. And sometimes you don't realize something that you do, what it means to me.
Right.
The other deep things.
We feel like what we've done or said is just something small, but filtered through the female lens, it becomes this big, heavy burden.
Yeah.
Second possible reason.
Okay, so this one's kind of tied to that one, but it's not necessarily about something you did. It's a hidden from you emotional need inside the wife. So we have to go back and remember what we learned in that first part when we did men only, that our wife's greatest need is reassurance that you love us. And when we have any type of relational conflict, it automatically triggers that deep emotional question, do you still love me, and are you staying? Am I lovable?
Yeah, I think we just ought to repeat that, because I think it's important for the men to remember that that is your wife's deepest, most profound question. Yours is, am I respected? Hers is, am I loved?
Yeah.
Does he still love me? Even if you said it 4 times today, there's something in her that says, I wonder if he still loves me today.
Yeah, and especially when there's a conflict of any type between us. And then this is a big point in this possible reason too. Some women, and probably a pretty big percentage, subconsciously pull back. And it's actually that we're desperately hoping that you as our husband are going to follow and reassure. Not run off and not just throw up your hands and say, whatever, I can't understand, this is impossible. And even getting defensive and saying, I didn't do something, or it's not about me, I'm going to let you work that out. No.
The question there that we should ask was, can you help me understand?
Yeah.
Can you help me understand why you are feeling this way? Can you help me understand why you responded that way?
Yeah, so in possible reason 1 and possible reason 2, that it could be something that you did, or it might be just something that's triggered that emotional response from a woman, is for the man to ask what's wrong and to say, I feel like I messed up, I'm sorry, help me understand. That would go so far for a wife, for the husband to be able to do that. And sometimes it's just going to take that you put your arm around me and say, it's okay, we're okay, you're going to be okay.
Most men are saying, well, why should I have to ask? Why can't you just tell me? Mm-hmm. Why can't you just tell me when I messed up? Or why can't you just tell me when you're struggling with this profound question?
Well, and they ask that in the book, and you would think that that would be a really simple thing.
Well, it makes sense to the male brain.
Yeah. It says that men in general have basically trained women to not do this, to not tell the man exactly what's going on, just straightforward, because you get defensive or there becomes anger.
Yep.
And so it's like we almost need you to give us permission to invite that information. And that's where that statement, I feel like I messed up, I think something's wrong, I'm really sorry, help me understand.
Yeah. So one of the reasons that your wife, if she's not just real forthcoming with these reasons, might be because we as the husband have just set this environment, created a culture in our marriage where she doesn't want to just be real forthcoming with that info, because she knows you're going to get angry, mm-hmm. you're going to get defensive, you're going to get silent, you're going to take that whole, well, I'll never understand, and just cause you as the man to just shrink away from the moment.
Yeah.
And so it's just not a comfortable place for y'all. But when we invite you to say, okay, I want to understand, even if I feel like I was in the right, I still want to understand where you're coming from.
Yeah.
Those are big words.
Yeah.
Help me understand.
Yeah, and I know that's hard.
Mm-hmm.
But if you love your wife and you want to have a safe place for the relationship, you're going to have to be able to do that.
Third possible reason is
it's...
First, before you get to that one, those first two, those are largely things that we as men can control.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
We can control when your wife has an unreasonable, unrealistic, unpredictable, crazy response to something you did or maybe didn't do. You get to control that situation just by asking the question, please help me understand, or have I done something to hurt you? You get to control that.
Yeah.
And then you get to control the outcome of that, mm-hmm. just because you're willing to ask the question.
Yes.
So these second two are a little bit different.
Right. The next two, so 3 and 4. So possible reason 3, and I think this is a big one too. It's not about the man.
Yes.
It's solely about our circumstance. Maybe we've had a horrible day at work, or a horrible day, hard, trying day with the kids at home. Not feeling well. Lots of different things. Things happen with the boss, or maybe with their family, their parents or grandparents or something. Something in the circumstances has caused some emotional pain for the woman. And so then it's coming out in the relationship, in the marriage. And so it said, this is when a man can help so much with just bringing out a listening ear and a shoulder to cry on.
Not trying to fix it.
No.
Just listening.
Yeah.
This is an important one to remember, because when the guys go off to do what we do, we go to work, or if we're retired, we go off and do whatever we do. But when we are out in the world and not with you, we don't get to control all the circumstances, all the things that happen to us. They just happen, and we have to try to react. And a lot of us come home from work kind of beat up or tired or exhausted or just tired of being around people. And so when that happens as men, we just want our wives to support us and love us, because we know we can't control all the things that just happen to us. We need to pass that same courtesy on to you. You can't control everything that happens to you at home.
Right.
You can't control everything that happens to you at work. And so you have the same kind of circumstances that we have. And if we want you to just love us in spite of that and be there for us, then we need to pass that on to you.
Yeah.
She had a bad day. I'm just going to need to listen to this.
Yeah. And to remember that even though you have the urge to fix it all, we just need you to listen sometimes. We've probably already figured out what we're going to need to do or what we need. Like if I've had a really hard day, sometimes I'll come home and say, I need to go take a bubble bath and I need to get in bed, or, whatever I need that helps me relax. But for you to listen and just put your arm around me. Yeah.
Fourth possible reason. I'm just going to sit here. I'm going to be quiet.
You're not going to look,
I'm not going to make eye contact with you or the good folks watching the video. I'm just going to stare off into space.
Yeah, so this is a really good one. And I love the way they give to handle this. So it's doesn't have anything to do with you. And
it's not anything you did, guys. This is not about us.
And it really has nothing to do with us. It's the hormones. Sometimes it is just the hormones. And we have very little control.
Right.
And so it doesn't last very long, but it does make us feel crazy. And we do realize that we are being unreasonable and that it makes no sense. And that sometimes it makes you look at us like we're crazy. So this one couple shared what they did, which I thought was so cute and so sweet and a great way to handle it, because it would help you be bring some humor into it, because you almost just have to laugh about it. It's so hard sometimes that it helps to just laugh. So the husband would kind of keep up with what part of the month it was, and he knew his wife well enough, and they had talked about this when it was a good moment, that it was okay for him to ask, and he would say, is this my sweet wife Laurie, or is this Helga the crazed mutant lady?
Who am I talking to today?
Yes. Who am I dealing with? Because it would make a difference on what I'm going to do. So I think it would help if men could just be a little understanding about, it's a lot that we have to deal with.
It's hard to be a girl.
It is hard to be a girl. We all wish that you could stand in our shoes for just one day or 1 week. You would have a lot more understanding when it came to this. And I was telling you before we started talking today that it's different for a young woman in the stages of having children and growing your family and just being young and trying to work through all this stuff. And then being on the other side of that, my career is established, my kids are grown, I'm not going through all these hormonal problems all the time, and it kind of evens out and becomes a little easier for us, thank goodness. So it does help when you get a little bit older. It's not as bad. If that helps women understand, to have something to look forward to, that it's not going to be bad forever. But I think that would be good to just have some kind of question. It doesn't have to be that you call it somebody, but just some funny little saying that the husband can ask to understand that that's what they're dealing with. Because it's good for the wife to just be able to say, this is why I'm upset.
Yeah.
And I know it doesn't make sense. So I think the bottom line for this one, there was a quote that they talked about that Oscar Wilde had, and it was that women are meant to be loved, not understood. Sometimes you just can't understand what we're going through because you're different and you're a man. But the bottom line was that you can understand and make her happy. when you put in some of the work and
That's
try to get it.
That for me was my big takeaway. The bottom line for that chapter was it is lazy, irresponsible, and just plain wrong for me as a man to operate on the assumption that you are unreasonable. I will never understand you. Why bother?
Yeah.
There's a man doesn't operate under those parameters in any other area of life.
Yeah.
If something doesn't make sense to a man, we try to understand it. We'll Google it. We'll ask a friend. We'll do something to try to understand something that is unreasonable to us. Why would we not put in that same or even more effort to doing our best to understand the woman that we love?
Yeah.
It's important. Anyway, there's a whole lot more in that chapter. We just barely hit the highlights, which is why I would suggest that you either buy these or you could even email me or text me or catch me at church like somebody did Sunday and say, do you have any more of those books? I actually have 2 more of these and 3 more of these. Don't ask me why I have an odd number, but that's what I've got. So you can email me or catch me at church. We'd love to pass those along to you. Thanks for taking the time to watch this. I hope it's helpful. Do your best to understand your wife. It really does help.
Yeah.
Okay. Love you guys. See ya.
Bye.